All right. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for spending the time to join this webinar or watch this webinar recording. Um, Today's topic is very relevant. We'll be talking about how to be cyber safe while you work from home. And I am doing this webinar today working from my home office. So this is my home office. I'm not in our company's office. I'm actually working from my home office. And it's important, I believe, this topic more than ever, because like I think due to the pandemic, everyone now is working from home, of course, as long as they can. And also, we don't know what the future is going to be. Are we going to go back um, to the offices? Are we going to work in a hybrid mode? Are we going to continue working from home? I think it's going to be different. For some people, it's going to be hybrid. For some people, it's going to be going back to office. For some people, it's going to be completely remotely. So today we will be talking about how can we secure the organization's assets, informations, and other information, and how can we be safe while working from home. So as I mentioned, my name is Mawaz Al-Nouri. I am a technologist by profession. I have a joy in fixing complex problems with simplified solutions. And also at the same time, I am the managing director of a company called Skillfield. Skillfield is an Australian-based cybersecurity consultancy and professional services company. We help organizations uplift their detection, mitigation, and response capability in order to combat cyber attacks. So in today's session, we'll be talking about the current threat landscape. So we'll be looking at the recent threats in the world. We'll be talking then about some of the recent cyber attacks and types. We'll be then talking about the cyber attacks. How do the cyber attacks happen? What's the sequence of activities that the attackers do in order to penetrate your network? And then we'll be talking about what are the challenges of working from home. And towards the ends, we'll be giving the tips on how to be cyber safe. So we will be building the contents in this way in order to give the context and then give you the tips on how to be safe while working from home. So first of all, the current threat landscape. At the time of writing those, preparing those slides, COVID-19 pandemic was like one of the most hot threats that's happening in the world, because it forced everyone to go from home, and attackers have been using COVID-19 in order to attack organizations and people individually as well. However, guys, the threat landscape is continuously evolving every day. Just yesterday, we have in Australia, the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, and the Australian Cybersecurity Centre has issued yesterday a recommendation for all Australian organizations to adopt an enhanced cybersecurity posture. Why is that? This is because of the recent developments that's happening in the world between Russia and Ukraine. So Australian government is helping Ukraine, and as a result, Australian organizations can possibly be under attack from Russia due to the help that the Australian offered to the Ukrainian government. So on day-to-day basis, the threats keep evolving and keeps changing. So as I said, at the time of preparing the slides, we wanted to talk about COVID-19 and that it forced us to work from home. But also, guys, the threats are continuously evolving. And as I mentioned, the recent political changes has emerged a new threat that now keeps everyone on alert. Now let's get back to the COVID-19 threat. Now, COVID-19 is considered as a cyber threat because it has forced the people to go and work from home. Also, attackers started using COVID-19 and the situation where people were eager to learn about what's happening in the world about COVID-19, to get recent information about statistics, about the vaccine, about the rapid antigen tests. All of these informations that people were hungry for were used by the cyber attackers in order to trick the users and trick the employees of organizations into clicking on malicious links or go to a malicious websites and enter their details. Also, there has been in Australia many websites that were claiming to collect donations related to COVID-19. So also they were touching on that. People would enter their personal details, their credit card details, and they will lose money as a result. So COVID-19 is a threat in different ways. One of them is, of course, is that it forced everyone to go and work from home. And as a result, it increased the attack surface, because before, organizations were bringing employees to the office, they would implement a firewall, they would implement a physical security, they would implement many security controls that would protect their employees. Suddenly, with COVID-19, we become a distributed network where everyone is working from home. And while working from home, people want to access the organizations and as well as the organization's data. And so VPN started emerging. And of course, once the data leaves the organizations, you don't know what happened with it. So all of those security controls are pretty much become obsolete, and organizations had to deal with this threat that now we have people working from home. And also during the last 2 years, every country in the world have seen a significant rise in the cybersecurity attacks, and specifically targeting the small, medium enterprises. Also, when we talk about the cyber threats doesn't require technical skills anymore. Now, bad people, if they want to do something bad to other organizations, they can simply go to the dark web. And there are actually toolkits that they can purchase in order to perform a cyber attacks. Furthermore, there is now something called cybercrime as a service. So you can actually pay someone in the dark web in order to perform a cyber attack on another organization. So today, attacks does not require technical expertise anymore. That really is a serious problem, which makes increase the threat landscape again. Last but not least, humans are adopting technology more. And if we look at the organizations, many organizations are adapting automations, adapting cloud, adapting SaaS services, software as a service applications. And that adopting technology is amazing. While the technology can be secured, however, there are more people using those technologies. And as we all know, human errors will happen. And human errors are continuously to be the primary threat for companies and their data security. So emerging technology means more people using technology. And with more people using technology, there's more chances to get human errors. And I will be sharing some statistics talking about the same topic shortly. More human errors, which means more possible attacks. The statistics that I want to share with you, during the pandemic, it has been noticed that there has been a 600% spike in phishing emails, and all of them were using the COVID theme, as I mentioned, offering people access to statistics information, offer people access to vaccine, offer people access to rapid antigen tests, offer people to do donations. There are many avenues that the attackers have been using in order to touch the heart of the people and try to get them to click on malicious links or visit malicious websites and provide their informations or download a file or attack them in a way. So the COVID-19 has been used as a theme by the attackers, and as a result, 600% increase in the phishing emails has happened since the start of the pandemic. Now, of course, not every organization was impacted, but 20% of the organizations that were impacted related this to be related to remote working. So they were attacked, they were under attack because, or they were breached because 20% is related to the remote working. Out of those 20%, if we look at why did they happen? Because of remote working. Why? If we do the 5 whys analysis, why? Now, because of human errors, 90% of the attacks is because of human errors. And then again, if we ask the humans why, it's because of distraction. Because they were distracted, they failed to identify that that's a phishing email, that's a malicious email, that's a malicious website, and they followed the game and provided their information. So the 5 whys drive to the distractions while working from home. And it's easy to be distracted while working from home. I'm expecting one of the kids to get in my room now at any moment, and that's a distraction. And I believe now, while we attend the meetings, there are many of you already checking their emails or doing that, or looking at their Slack or Microsoft Teams or whatever collaboration tool you are using. So we have definitely noticed that while working from home, multitasking has increased, and as a result, getting distracted become an easy thing. So getting distracted result in a human error, result in organizations getting breached. Now, if we want to talk about some recent cybersecurity, some recent cybersecurity attacks, and in those ones, I will be showing you that sometimes it's really easy to protect organizations from those cyber attacks. One of them is the WannaCry 2017, and we picked one that's even before the pandemic. With the WannaCry, it was infecting Windows PCs, encrypting the data, and of course, as always, requesting a ransom. Now, the irony here is that the patch for this vulnerability that was used in that attack was patched months before the attack happens. What does it mean? It means that there were many organizations out there, many people out there, that they were not keeping their applications and their operating systems up to date. Another example is the Colonial Pipeline. I believe everyone heard of this attack because it stopped the largest pipeline in the USA from operating. How did it happen? It happened by using a compromised password for a VPN account that doesn't have two-factor authentication. So the first attack that we brought as an example, the solution was continuous patching. This one, configure multi-factor authentication. It's easy, but yet if it's being missed, it will cause a real damage and a real impact to organizations. Another one is also in the healthcare and in the healthcare system, where financials impact caused over $20 billion in losses, and over 600 hospitals were impacted. Also, they were not following the standard and the basic security controls. So yes, the cyber threat landscape is increasing. Yes, we as an employees getting distracted, but yet there are some tips and there are some activities, some controls that organizations need to do that can be simple and that can resolve can protect organizations from the cyber attacks. Now, if we want to talk about the recent cyber attacks that have emerged during the pandemic, one of them is phishing, as I mentioned. So they were tricking users to click on a malicious links or visit a website and then obtaining sensitive information like credit card or personal details. Also, through those phishing emails, they were using COVID-related themes, as I mentioned before, statistics, donations, vaccine informations, etc. And they were playing on people's emotions in order to trick them to trick. So phishing has been increasing. That's one thing. The other thing that's increasing is continuously social engineering. Social engineering where attackers target the employees, not only the IT admins. So we know that the CEOs or the IT admins will have probably an admin access to everything in the networks. But what attackers have been doing is that they have been targeting not only those IT administrators, but also the employees, because once they get access through one of the employees, they can then move within the organizations, upskill and escalate their access in order to get an admin access or get a high privileged access and cause damage to the organization. And we will be talking about the journey of the cyber attacks now. So how does cyber attacks happen? As I mentioned, the cyber attacks has preset of steps, some common steps. And for people who want to dive more technical, there are really two ways to look at cyber attacks. There is MITRE ATT&CK framework, and also there is a cyber kill chain. In simple language, if I want to identify it, the way the attack happens is that the attackers identify a target of a hacking. So they identify a person, and then they start collecting information about the person. They look at LinkedIn, they looked at Instagram, they looked at videos like this in order to collect some information about me if they ever wanted to target our company. So they try to identify all this open source information that's available about the target. So they identify a target, they then start collecting information about the people they want to attack, and then they weaponize this information. So if, for example, I am someone who's interested in the cybersecurity, they will be getting, I will maybe get an invitation to a cybersecurity events. To be honest, even when Sayuj reached out to me to speak in this webinar, I had to do my due diligence in order to make sure that it's not something suspicious and it's not someone trying to collect more information about me. So we must be careful. So they collect information, then they weaponize the information, then they start doing the attack. Once they start doing the attack, until they get access to the network or to the corporate, once they get that, they make sure that they maintain that access to that network, and then they try to escalate their access. So if I am a normal user that doesn't have any admin rights, they try to find a vulnerability that they can expose in order to escalate their access and become admins, or they try to get other credentials for other admins, or there are many ways that they do in order to get that privileged access. Then what they do is that they hide their footprints. That's called defense evasion. And so they try to hide footsteps. They try to make sure that they are not getting detected or discovered by the organizations. And then they start doing something called lateral movements. They start to move from one node to another until they collect the information they want that's worth money, and then they exfiltrate these information, or they encrypt files, they do whatever they want, then they do command and control. This is when the attackers have a full control on the information, have a full control on the networks. So there is a journey. It's not something that happens in a few seconds or in a few minutes. The attacks nowadays become more sophisticated, and the attackers plan for it carefully. I highly recommend that if you want to learn more about the attack kill chain, or the attack steps and how the attackers perform their attacks, look at MITRE ATT&CK framework as well as the cyber kill chain. So threat landscape is increasing. We all agree and we all acknowledge that. Attackers doesn't require any more technical skills. There are easy way to do attacks. We did mention about few attacks examples. We did talk about what are the attacks that have emerged over the last 2 years. We did talk about the cyber chain. So now the question is, what's the impact of the cyber attacks? What do we need to protect? I keep saying that what you need to protect, first of all, you need to protect your stakeholders. What do we mean by protecting your stakeholders? You need to protect your employees. You need to protect your customers. You need to protect your shareholders. These are all your stakeholders that you must protect. The other thing you need to protect is your reputation, your brand. One of my best quote that I use when I talk about this topic is that it takes 20 years to build a reputation and only a few minutes of cyber attack to ruin it. That's really scary. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and only few seconds of cyber attacks to ruin it. So you need to protect your reputation, because when cyber attack happens, it will damage your reputation. And as a result, you might lose revenue, you might lose customers, you might need also to pay penalties. It's a big thing. So brand is the second thing. So stakeholders, brand. Third, you need to protect your revenue, because if you are under cyber attacks, you might lose revenue because few of the customers might walk out of the door because they don't want to do business with you. You might not be able to gain new customers. So revenue, you might not be able to operate the business. So revenue is very important. Revenue and profit are two things that you need to protect. Another thing you need to protect is operations. Operations, because if cyber attacks happen, let's say that even if you did not lose any data and you don't want to build any penalties, but you might get a downtime. And if your machines are down, you'll get a downtime. And if you look at it, if one Windows machine is impacted, just think about how many people would be involved into getting this back to normal. First of all, the employee will get panicked. Probably they will not be able to work for the rest of the day. They need to involve the security team or the IT admin in order to investigate and see what's going on, right? And then they need to bring a new laptop, or let's say wipe the laptop and reinstall the operating system and do all these activities. All of this is really downtime that you want to avoid from due to cyber attack, due to not following the right steps and not doing the right things to protect your organizations. So protect your stakeholders, protect your brand, protect your revenue and profit, and protect your operations from downtime. So working from home is challenging. We all agree working from home is challenging, and it is when people started working from home, like overnight, those questions emerged. How can we access the corporate resource from home? Do we have a VPN gateway that will allow people to connect? What devices are we allowing to access corporate resources? Do we allow users to use the VPN and access from using any laptop to our environments, or do we want to ensure that the users are only accessing our environments from a corporate laptops that have our device management installed? Another thing is, if we are allowing our employees to access the corporate resources from home, from their corporate devices, then how can to access the data? Then the data is leaving the organization. Then how can we protect the data remotely? And last but not least, how can we protect and control the data after returning to office? So now the data is on the people's laptops. People will go back to office. What are we going to do after returning to office? All of these questions has emerged as part of the COVID-19 pandemic. So now we will be giving you tips about what are the things that you need to do to work safe from home. And our tips are not only targeted for employees but also for IT admins. And you will see that they are not sophisticated recommendations that we are going to give. It's really basics recommendations that I believe every organization and every employee needs to do. And for people who are interested in the Australian cyber industry, we have the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, and the Australian Cybersecurity Centre has released something called Essential 8. The Essential 8 is a framework that identifies 8 things that every organization needs to do. It includes things like keep your operating system up to date, keep your applications up to date, make sure that you have application control on your devices, disable macros, enable two-factor authentication, use a complex password, do backup. So I think this I mentioned the 7 or the 8. So have a look at the Essential 8. It's a very nice framework that also provides you with some standard tips on how to be safe. But we will be diving a little bit on those today. So first of all, for employees and for everyone, whether you are an employee working from home, to be honest, or you have kids, or you have an IoT devices or any smart devices, you must secure your home network. And how to do that? You must change the default password on your admin on your router. So do not leave the admin default password. You must change that password. This is one of the things that you need to do. And it's important to secure your home network router, because once people get access to it, they can get access to your home network. And believe me, I did hear about few use cases where attackers were encrypting or locking in some smart TVs and requesting a ransom to unlock it. Like, you've paid for the TV $1,000 or $2,000. They will lock it and ask for a ransom. You're definitely not going to buy $2,000, $3,000 to buy a new TV because of a ransom. So they will request a ransom from you in order to unlock your device. These things do happen. Also, if you have kids at home, this is important because your kids are home. If you have cameras at home, you must protect your home networks. Make sure that you configure the right passwords for your Wi-Fi network. Do not leave it a very easy one that contains only numbers that anyone can simply brute force it and get access to your home net router. Make sure to change your the password for the console of your router and Wi-Fi devices. Make sure that you also, with the security, there's the different security levels with the passwords. Make sure to choose the highest security option that you can secure your network. And in my home, I take it to the next level, and I have installed a home network security device. So if you want to do that, it's believe me, it's definitely worth the money. It's something that important that every person do for their personal safety, for their family safety, and also for their work safety. So secure your home router. The other thing I would advise you is always make sure you encrypt your device. Make sure that your Windows device, your Mac, your iPad, your iPhone, make sure that the data is always encrypted. Because why do we insist on this? You might tell me, yeah, but my Windows laptop is locked with a password. That's true, but if someone takes the laptops, deassemble it, get the hard disk, connect it with another Windows device, if your files are not encrypted, the person will have access to your data, will be able to view it in plain text without any issue. However, if you encrypt the data on your laptop, and then this laptop is stolen or someone takes it from you, get access to this laptop, deassemble it, get the disk, connect it with another device in order to read the data, it will be encrypted. They will not be able to see your data. So make sure that you encrypt your devices. Last but not least, it's very important always to keep your operating system up to date. You see that orange icon that appears in the corner on your Windows device, or when Mac prompts you that there's a new version, do not ignore it. As soon as you have it, make sure that you update your operating system. As we said, the WannaCry security attack, the patch was there months before the attack happens, but people were not keeping those operating systems up to date. You must do that. I do that for my laptop, my kids' laptops, my iPad, my iPhone, all the devices. You must keep all your devices always operating system up to date. It's critical, guys. There are various vulnerabilities. There are vulnerabilities that are being exposed by the hackers. You must keep your applications and operating systems up to date. The other thing is, of course, strong password on all your devices, whether it's to access. It doesn't stop only on the devices, also for your applications. You need to ensure that your devices always have a strong password, so do not use 4 digits PIN code, even on your mobile. One of the things that I will tell you that's really scary, it's really important that everyone knows. Most of the people have 4 digits to unlock their phone. If you get access to those 4 digits, you will get access to everything in this phone. Well, you might tell me, yeah, but I don't store important information on my phone. That's fine. But if you are using one of those password management tools, and those password management tools, you can simply unlock it using those 4 digits, then the attacker will get access to all your passwords. And if he has your phone, it means even the 2-factor authentication wouldn't work. So I recommend that at least set a 6 to 8 digits number for your phone. And guys, don't be shy from hiding your number when you unlock your phone in front of your friends. It's not a joke. It's something very serious. If someone gets access to this code and get your phone, he will be able to act like you. When you call the bank, they send you a message in order to verify your identity, right? Your phone plus those 4 digits is pretty much you. So you must protect and have always strong passwords on your devices. Try to separate work devices from personal devices. It's very important because you might be a target for attack because you're working in an organization. You don't want them to take your personal and your corporate data. Same thing, if you are working on your personal stuff, you might take it easy. You might not pay enough attention. When you are in work mode, you are in work mode. So try to separate the work devices from personal devices to distribute the information and reduce. Don't put your eggs in one basket. All right. So try to separate your work devices from personal devices. Another thing is learn to detect phishing scams. If you're now, how to do this? You probably have heard this many times. Look, the phishing emails will come. They will most probably have grammatical errors in terms of the font and the the images, it will not be in a good quality. So you can tell that there's something suspicious in this email is happening. However, don't stop there. I'm pretty sure there are plenty of sources available on YouTube that tells you how to detect phishing scams, how to tell that this email is suspicious. And also, later on, your organizations needs to do a security awareness training for you in order to teach you how to do those phishing scams. And they happen all the times. Nowadays, every couple of days, all my employees receive emails, phishing emails from me saying, I need you an urgent task. Are you available? Send me your number. All my employees get that email. They get it on both their personal email and their corporate email. Now, we have a very security awareness mentality in the organization. So as soon as one person receives them, we post them and we report them to everyone that be careful, someone is sending. So we share the knowledge. So even if someone did not pay attention, they will be alerted by others. So phishing is serious. It's happening. Sometimes it gets through the spam folder. So you need to learn how to detect phishing scams. Talk to your company and ask them to provide you with cybersecurity awareness training. And if not, jump on YouTube and learn. And also there are plenty of articles talking about that. Educate yourself with the cybersecurity. Last but not least, try to use always a VPN. Now try to use a VPN. Why? Because especially when you are in a public Wi-Fi, in order to encrypt the traffic as well. So when you are connected to a public Wi-Fi, there's a public Wi-Fi. When you connect to it, by the way, that public Wi-Fi could be not public Wi-Fi. So someone else could have started the hotspot, and very simply, they're routing their traffic through their devices. And then what they can do is that they can sniff this traffic. They can look at this traffic. If you are sending passwords, if you are sending data, they might be able to see the data as well and look at what's the communication that you are doing over the internet. While if you are using a virtual private network, even if that access point is compromised, or even if you are connected to a malicious access point, you will still be protected, because your transaction or your traffic will be protected. You're not completely protected because they might use the access to try to attack your laptop or your device, but at least your traffic will be encrypted and they will not be able to gain enough information in order to attack you. So try to use a VPN access when possible. And my advice, you must use a VPN access when you are on a public Wi-Fi access point. So that's for you as a user. Now, for security admins, what do you need to do? Invest in cybersecurity awareness training. Guys, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is. The cybersecurity awareness trainings, you might tell me, yeah, they speak common sense. Yes, you're right. They speak common sense, especially for people who work in the IT. However, it's the cybersecurity awareness trainings always keep security on top of people's minds. Always keep people alerted that these things are real and they happen, so they can always look at ways of identifying phishing emails and malicious activities. The cybersecurity awareness trainings is really very, very important, and I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to do it, and to do it frequently as well, in order to keep people aware of the cybersecurity. And and it works. Because I work in the cybersecurity domain, I keep talking at home about cybersecurity. Now, my kids, when they receive a malicious information, or someone tries to request personal information, they come and ask me, this website is asking me for my date of birth. Can I put it in? Not because they know that, it's because I keep talking about cybersecurity. They hear me talking all the times about the threats, so they become cyber aware. And that's what you need to do as an IT admin. Use cybersecurity awareness trainings to do that. Implement email security practices. Make sure to implement all those DNS configurations, the DKIM and others, in order to protect your DNS, to protect your employees. Make sure that whether you're using G Suite, Office 365, or any other tool, make sure to always look at the security configuration, and make sure to configure the anti-spam, the anti-phishing, and all of those configurations. Use them to the maximum. If you want to take it to the next level, use an email security gateway as well. Make sure that you understand what are the email security best practices and implement them within your organization, and identify what you need if you need more protection. Last but not least, very simple one, implement multi-factor authentication. It is important. Multi-factor authentication. We've seen the Colonial Pipeline. They were compromised because they had a VPN that has a password authentication only, no multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication is important, and you must enable it for all your accesses. If I can take the liberty, in my opinion, it needs to be implemented to everything. Another tip for IT admins is be aware of Zoom and video conferencing and what are their vulnerabilities and how are they being used within your organization. Some hackers, like as we said, with working from home, everyone started using those tools, right? And we definitely heard that Zoom had few issues at sometimes, other video conference applications had problems sometimes. Of course, excuse me, they fixed all the vulnerabilities and they all have been remediated. But if you are an IT admin, you need to know what tools do your employees use. You need to understand what are the vulnerabilities, what are the risks of using those tools. And if yes, you need to make your employees aware of what are the best practices for using Zoom. So for example, if you are using Zoom, one of the things you can always do is that, for God's sake, don't send your public room ID in every meeting, because once this become known, people will start using your Zoom. People will start like maybe use it in order to scam one of the clients and get them into a meeting with you and act like you. They might access your meetings, especially if there are those big meetings where there are many people attending and you can't see the complete list, and they can listen to what's happening in your environments. Make sure that with Zoom, there's always that schedule meeting. Schedule a meeting and have a unique meeting ID for every meeting. Do not use the same meeting ID again and again and again and again, because if it gets compromised, it's a matter of time until people use it. So identify what tools your team is using. Make sure to follow the best practices and make your employees aware of it. Another thing in Zoom is that you can always lock the meeting. Once you have all the people attending, just lock the meeting so no more people will be attending. Another thing is configure a remote work policy. That's important as well, whether it's a policy document that explains what are the things that employees need to work. So if they shouldn't leave their laptop open, they shouldn't go to a public coffee shop and connect to the internet without using the company provided VPN. And another thing is that, for example, they can't work from public areas where there's someone do shoulder surfing and looking at their data. So whatever applicable for you, make sure to introduce a work policy and a remote work policy, and make sure you make your employees aware of it and familiar with it. And of course, the things that we're talking about are important, but how can you enforce those policies? Consider using an endpoint management solution like Hexnode or others. This is important. I can't emphasize enough how this is important, because even though we work in an IT company and everyone knows that they need to keep their operating system updates, in our unified endpoint management, we still see that people are not they're not immediately installing. There's a delay. I'm not going to say how much the delay is, so social engineers will not use it in order to get information about us. But it's not. So we enforce it from the endpoint management solution that it must be updated now, regardless of what that employee is doing. So whatever policies you have, you need to enforce it as well by using an endpoint management solution that will identify what is there. Some very simple thing is the screen lock. Some people configure it to be like, do not lock my screen if I'm away for 1 hour. That's very risky. Most organizations have that. No, you need to, if it's like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or 5 minutes, whatever time is applicable for your company, lock the screen. Make sure that you lock the screen. What are the password policies for accessing the laptop? So remote work policy is important. Use a unified defined endpoint management system like Hexnode in order to enforce it. So in summary, guys, security is everyone's responsibility. It's not the responsibility of the IT admins. It's not the responsibility of the security team. It's the responsibility of everyone. Security is very important. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and only a few minutes of cyber attacks to ruin it. Security is important. Security is everyone's responsibility. There are really basic things that we all need to do and can do in order to enhance our cybersecurity posture. Employees needs to come along with you in the journey. I keep hearing people saying employees are the weakest link. Yes, but they are also your strongest defense, because most of the attacks happen due to employees getting distracted and a human error. Well, human errors will happen. So how can we bring employees along with us in the journey? How can we empower employees to be cyber aware? How can empower employees by giving them a device management tool that will make sure that if they miss something, there's a safety net that will protect them. So it's everyone's responsibility. Bring employees along with you in the journey. Do your due diligence, do your due care, and the results will work. You'll protect your organization, you'll protect your brand, your stakeholders, your financials, and your operations from cyber attacks, whether you are working from home or you're working from your office. That's all from me today. I hope I was not speaking too fast. It's time now for questions and answers.
So Mawaz, that was a really insightful session, and frankly, and I think I've learned quite a few from this presentation as well. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Ayuj.
So just a quick reminder once again, this webinar is being recorded. So whoever, has not been able to access today's webinar, we'll be sending this to them via email as well. And right now the session is open for Q&A. And I had a question myself personally that I wanted to ask.
Yeah, sure.
So you were stressing on the cyber security awareness.
Yeah.
So do you think, organizations are currently, implementing cybersecurity awareness on a very serious note?
Unfortunately, it's not in all organizations yet. There are still many organizations that do not invest in cybersecurity awareness trainings. They might mention it to their employees, but they do not invest in cybersecurity awareness trainings. And to be honest, in one of my blog posts, if you want to jump on our website and have a look, I even challenged that the cybersecurity awareness training shouldn't be only the employer responsibility. In the school, in my opinion, there should be cybersecurity awareness trainings. So usually when my kids started study from home and I had to give each one of them a device to connect to the internet, I was terrified. I was scared. I'm giving them access to the internet. And I will tell you, so my kids play Roblox, and in one occurrence, my son came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, this website gives free Robux. This is more like a credit in the Roblox games. Can I enter my details?" I said, "There's nothing called like free Robux. These guys are trying to. It's a malicious website." And I looked at the website, and it is a malicious website. So, and my son is what, 10 years old. So, in my opinion, unfortunately, organizations are not investing enough in cybersecurity awareness trainings. Now, the Australian government is doing enough by releasing many information sessions and continuously, even our Prime Minister keeps talking about the cybersecurity. So, look, we cannot rely only on the government to do this. As I said, security is everyone's responsibility, the employer, and even if I can take the liberty to say, it's even the education sector responsibility. In the university, there must be security awareness trainings. In the high school, there must be cybersecurity awareness trainings. Maybe in the primary school to a certain level, there needs to be. It's everyone's responsibility. It's not only one party's responsibility.
That's a pretty solid, reply, I feel. So how do you think the organizations should approach this? You know what I mean? Like, if you have to talk specifically about organizations, how do you think they should, cater it, how they should train the employees?
So there are different types of cybersecurity awareness trainings. There are few organizations that do an in-class training. Actually, in-class training, they bring an instructor, and the instructor will give a session. there are, so my problem with this is that it happens once a year. You need to pay for an instructor every time. If you have a big number of employees, it might not be very sufficient. So, but that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing, so classroom training. Another way of doing it is that some organizations have a very heavy 8 hours cybersecurity awareness trainings, and they do it once a year. But this is good, but believe me, your employee will be clicking on play for the videos and will be doing other things in parallel, because those are very boring and killing trainings. So also, I did not see this to be effectively working. My recommended and my best preferred way to do those cybersecurity awareness trainings is to do it, to have 20 minutes trainings to be repeated every quarter. That's what we are doing in the company. So we have 20 minutes, very light, very simple trainings, and we are partners with KnowBe4. So they are the leaders in the cybersecurity awareness trainings. They have very good light. It's more like you're watching a TV show. So they have very good cybersecurity awareness trainings. So what we do is that we do it frequently, at least every quarter we do it. That, it's not boring. It's 20 minutes, so everyone will pay the attention required to it. You can't get employees' attention for more than 20 minutes, in my opinion. Another thing is it's frequent, which means that it keeps security on top of everyone's mind, that, those guys keep talking about security. It is. We must keep talking about cybersecurity. We shouldn't be ashamed of it. So it's light, B, it's frequent, and the content is good. I believe that this is much better than getting everyone to spend 8 hours a year on trainings or to get a classroom training.
Some pretty great insights, Mawaz. And since there haven't been any questions, because you've been so very thorough with the entire presentation, I think we can wind up the webinar. So like, any last words before we conclude the session, Mawaz?
Thanks, Sayush, for having me to present in this webinar. And look, a word to you guys that it's a scary word out there, but we know that there are many martial arts experts out there, right? But yet we still go out and walk. There are many karate, black belt people out there, but yet we don't scare from them. I know it is scary. It's a serious problem, right? But it shouldn't like keep you awake at night, because there are basic things like what we mentioned: security awareness trainings, using an endpoint protections, two-factor authentication, use an endpoint management device like Hexnode. With all of these activities, you can really sleep better at night and say, I've done everything I can. I am cyber ready. If it happens, and it may happen, then I've done my due diligence. I've done everything I can. It's out of my hands. So you'll be better to sleep at night.
That's great. So on that note, I think thank you, Mawaz, for joining our webinar, and thank you everyone for attending the session. And I think, I think we'll be done for now. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, Ayush. Thanks, everyone.